What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 6. I'm going to show you how the team is shaping up, thoughts on transfers, captaincy, all that good stuff, and I'll quickly run you through how I did in Game Week 5 as well. If you do enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And if you want to get your team rated for free over on Fantasy Football Hub, there are links in the description below. And if you want to check out things like your AI suggested transfers and make use of all the other tools, there's a 7-day free trial and 30% off at the moment. All the links you need are in the description below. So let's take a quick look at Game Week 5, and it was bad, right? I got 36 points total. 12 of them came from Haaland captain, and it was such a bad week that my highlights were not getting massively punished by my transfers. So instead of doing Saliba to a Newcastle defender to prepare for the next few game weeks, I ended up doing Sterling to Son, and obviously only just bought Sterling in. Son then blanked against Sheffield United at home. Straight away, I'm regretting that move. And obviously, that is hindsight. Of course it is. I said that on Twitter as well. But I'm panicking about what Sterling might do the next day. He blanks against Bournemouth. And even though Newcastle got a clean sheet, so did Saliba. So worst thing that really happened there is I could have been an extra transfer up by already having a Newcastle defender in. But that's really not the end of the world compared to what could have happened once Newcastle had that clean sheet locked in and Son had blanked against Sheffield United at home. I know it's super cliche, and I've already said it on the knee-jerk stream on Sunday, but it could have been worse. Like, if I got 36 and everyone else is posting scores of 70, 80 plus, that's a truly awful week. But a lot of people are in and around that 30-point mark, so I'm not hugely worried. If you got 45 points plus, you're probably on a green arrow. So it could have been a lot worse. I have fallen down to just inside the top 900k, but I've been saying over the last few weeks that overall rank can change very quickly for the better, or in this case, for the worse, because the points are so tight. So if I can fall that much, I can also increase by that much as well. So overall, my kind of thoughts would be, don't panic. Don't start making transfers you weren't going to make anyway, or very likely to make anyway. And most people who are thinking about the wildcard still don't probably need it, or probably still don't need it, I should say. There might be some teams out there that do, but I'm not suddenly worried after a bad week that I need to get rid of absolutely everyone. So just to run through the points that I did get, which weren't very many. Turner in goal for 2 points, conceded to Burnley. I had Pickford on the bench with 3 points. So we're 5 game weeks in. I've still not had a clean sheet from my goalkeeper. And even this week when I bench Pickford against Arsenal, that also turns out to be the wrong decision. I haven't checked Turner's expected goals conceded. Yeah, only 0.56. I did joke in the YouTube members Discord about how everyone was saying to me Nottingham Forest defence is great and they've already conceded to Burnley. But to be fair, specifically in the home games against Sheffield United and Burnley, they've only conceded 1.07 expected goals total over those 2 games. Now, you could also say that Burnley were a little bit unlucky to have that second goal chalked off, but ultimately they've done pretty well defensively in both of those games. So I'd still be happy to play Turner in those kind of fixtures. He's got Luton in Game Week 9. If he's still first choice, I'd probably play him then. But I don't suddenly think the Nottingham Forest defence is great or anything like that. But against these other weaker teams at home, they look like a pretty good bet if you've still got Turner. Chilwell, benched, came on, 0 points because he got a yellow card, just like all the Chelsea players we owned. Saliba got a clean sheet against Everton, which was nice. Udogie conceded to Sheffield United, so he only got 2 points. Rashford and Fernandes, really frustrating. They both blanked as well. 2 points for Rashford, 1 for Fernandes. Mbeumo blanked for the first time this season. Not worried about that whatsoever. Newcastle away was his toughest fixture so far, because obviously when they played Spurs, they were at home. Then Son brought him in, 2 points. Saka got the assist, so he finished on 6. Nicholas Jackson, another yellow card, another 1-pointer. And obviously Haaland got 12. And usually Haaland is so heavily captained that I don't really care what he gets. But this week, there were quite a few people that went Maddison or Son. Haaland's points did mean something this week. So for him to have a game where he could have scored a hat-trick easily and to only get 1 goal feels a little bit unfortunate. But overall, terrible week, 36 points, no panic just yet. So let's take a look at the defensive options for Game Week 6. And I've still got 2 free transfers. So every game week so far, I've been able to roll the second transfer. I've been very fortunate with injuries and stuff like that. But this week, I feel like I'm probably going to have to use both of them. There are some issues starting to crop up. Obviously, when you make your team in Game Week 1, essentially that's a wildcard team. So you're looking at a block of 4 to 6 fixtures. But now some of those fixtures are starting to turn. I've got some rotation worries with players like Ben Chilwell. And some players are just rubbish, like Nicholas Jackson, who I'll talk about later. So I think I'm going to use both of my transfers this week. I don't think I'm in hit territory or anything like that. but both of them probably will have to go. One player that I'm not going to sell is Jordan Pickford. Now, luckily for me, no one's goalkeeper has really done that well over the last couple of weeks. So the comments about him have died down quite a lot. And I don't expect a clean sheet against Brentford away. But after that, he's got Luton at home, then Bournemouth at home. And if Matt Turner keeps his place as the #1 goalkeeper for Nottingham Forest, he then has Luton at home in game week 9. So over the next 4 game weeks, my goalkeeper fixtures could be Brentford away, Luton at home, Bournemouth at home, Luton at home. And on paper, that sounds perfectly fine to me. I get the argument that Pickford plays for a bad defensive team, therefore he's still not going to get clean sheets in those easier fixtures. But he's still got more chance than when he plays a team like Arsenal at home. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to keep hold of him. And ultimately, yes, I've got 2 free transfers, but there's other stuff that I want to do. And that's been the case over the last few weeks. In hindsight, because I haven't gained any points from selling Watkins or Martinelli or Sterling, I could have made a goalkeeper swap without any issues. But obviously I didn't know that at the time, so I'm not going to worry about it. So he's going to stay, even though I don't think he's going to get a clean sheet this week. With Estupiñán, great fixture. I'm kind of excited to have him this week. It's one of the reasons I wanted to keep hold of him. I am slightly more worried about him this week than I was this time last week. And it's not because he wasn't in the squad against Man United, because I think that was related to international kind of duty, right? So that's not really a problem. Yes, he's got a Europa League game on Thursday, but I'm not even massively worried about that, because at the end of last season, he played every 3 to 4 days without many issues, right? He was an absolute machine. The problem is that Lamptey played against Man United as a left-back, and he played really well. So all of a sudden, I don't think that's massive competition. I think Estupiñán's absolutely first choice. The fact you've got a left footer helps a lot. But if he does need a rest, De Zerbi now knows that he can play Lamptey, who will do a good job. Obviously, we haven't seen him much over the last few seasons because of injury concerns, but he is a really good player. And yes, he's a natural right back, but he's shown he can play in that position as well. So if Estupiñán plays in the Europa League, then De Zerbi thinks he needs a bit of a rest, or he's got a slight knock or something like that. Lamptey's there. So I don't think it's a huge concern. No one should be panicking this week. But after Bournemouth, the fixtures get quite tough from a defensive point of view until game week 10. So maybe Estupiñán will be more sellable then. But for now, I'm keeping hold of him. With Chilwell, I am worried about whether or not he's going to start. I did get it wrong, right? I stick by the fact that he's a defender playing as an attacker. That's really great for FPL. Not a problem. But what I got wrong was I thought if he wasn't playing left wing, he would go to left back. And that hasn't happened. He's been benched. Mudryk played left wing, Colwill played left back. Now, the commentator during the game on Sky, I think it was, did say that Chilwell had a small knock. That's what Pochettino had said. But I haven't seen that anywhere else. So either we haven't been given that information, or the commentators just got it wrong. I've not seen it from another journalist. Everything that Pochettino has said is that they just wanted to play Mudryk in that position instead. And because the back four had done okay, he wanted to keep Colwill as left back. So that is a problem for Chilwell going forward. I just don't know if he's going to play this week. And that's the problem now. He might do. And if he does, I'd want to keep hold of him. But if I don't know, should I just sell him? And I've got 2 free transfers. So that is what I'm currently thinking of doing. Chilwell to Botman would be the move. I do want to target the Newcastle defence with the fixtures they've got. I can't afford Trippier without another move. And I'll come on to that in a minute. I could afford Fabian Schär. And I do think he's more attacking than Botman. The reason that I'm looking at going for Botman instead is he's only 4.5 million. And if you think back to pre-season, when the prices come out, he was one of those defenders that we said is massive value. And I think that's the case. And it just allows me to spend more money elsewhere. And one thing it does is potentially leaves the door open to not wildcard in game weeks 9 or 10. Because I'll be able to get Salah because I haven't used so much money in my defence. So that's in the back of my mind, that I'm not completely locked in with game week 10 wildcard, and I want to leave those options open. So Chilwell to Botman could be the move. I guess the problem is, what do I need to hear or see to have confidence that Chilwell is going to play? I would need Pochettino almost to come out and say that he's going to start, or that he's happy to change the defence or something like that. Because so far, Colwill, Silva and Disasi, and then obviously Reece James, Augusto right back, has been fairly consistent in all 5 games. So it is a bit of a problem. The other move that I was originally looking at, which I also looked at for game week 5, is Saliba to a Newcastle defender. Again, in this case, Botman. Now, Arsenal defence is great, and I would personally prefer to keep hold of them. But obviously, if Chilwell's going to start, then I like him, and therefore I need to make a different defender change instead. And the only game where I'm really wanting to play Saliba over the next few weeks is Bournemouth away in game week 7, because outside of that, Spurs at home, Man City at home and Chelsea away, I'm not really expecting clean sheets for Arsenal. So Bournemouth's the only good game, I would say, from a clean sheet perspective. And that week, I think Newcastle have got Burnley at home, so it's not even a problem if I sell Saliba. And again, if I wildcard from game week 10, where the fixtures get a lot better for Arsenal, then I can either get him back, or maybe I go to a Zinchenko or a Gabriel who's a little bit cheaper instead. I would feel more secure having Saliba, but there are potentially other options there. So that is another move that I could make. I'm less keen on that now because of the Chilwell situation. But the other move, and there's lots of defender talk this week, is to go double Newcastle defence, get rid of Saliba and Chilwell. That gives me enough money to get Trippier and Botman. Now, that would lock a bit more money in my defence, so I need to give that a lot of thought. But I do like the idea of doubling up on that Newcastle defence. Their underlying numbers are great. The fixtures are great. Most people are going to get one in. So if I can have two, that might be a bit of a differential for a little bit at least. And obviously, Trippier is the most attacking. I'm not hugely worried about rotation or anything like that. Obviously, the team against AC Milan was the usual back four. And I think that will probably be the same back four for the game against Sheffield United as well, especially when they got quite a bit of a break until that game. It's Tuesday to Sunday turnaround. So that is something I really like. The only thing that would put me off that is if I want to sell Nicholas Jackson instead. I think Chilwell and Saliba to Trippier and Botman's a pretty good move. I do have Kabori on the bench for Wolves at home, so I could do Chilwell to Newcastle defender, play Kabori instead of Saliba, then have Saliba for Bournemouth. That is something else that I will consider. But I like the idea of doubling up on the Newcastle defence. I think it looks pretty good. And obviously, Doggy's got Arsenal away, Liverpool at home, so I don't want to play him the next 2 weeks. So for sure, or at least I say with like 99% certainty, I am going to own a Newcastle defender by the game week 6 deadline. I'm just not sure which one and who for. But right now, if I had to say, it's definitely going to be Chilwell to Botman. It's just whether or not I make that second move of Saliba to Trippier. So in midfield, I've got Rashford and Fernandes against Burnley away. I've got Mbeumo against Everton at home. So that's one of the reasons I'm not expecting points from Pickford, because I'm hoping that Mbeumo will return again. Then I've got Son against Arsenal away and Saka against Spurs at home. And I'm quite happy with that midfield. I think sometimes when you have a bad game week, like 36 points in game week 5, your initial reactions on the weekend are often, got to get rid of that player. That player absolutely has to go. I need to get this player in instead. And I'm sure some of you went through that this weekend. I didn't think that about any of my midfielders. I'm just pretty happy about the picks that I've got. I think individually they're all good. And I'm quite calm about it. I'm sure there's other people looking at my midfield thinking, well, Saka's got 4 returns in 5. Yeah, he's done all right, but he's not explosive. You got Son in, that was knee-jerk. Now he's got Arsenal away. Man United haven't been great. But I think individually they're all perfectly fine picks. And ultimately, there's not really too many other midfielders that I want right now, apart from probably Salah. But the plan in pre-season was not to get Salah until kind of game weeks 9 or 10. And I haven't seen anything that really changes my mind on that. Yes, he's been consistent, but as I said yesterday, we knew that was likely to be the case anyway. There's a reason that he's 12.5 million. And even if I wanted him, I don't have a real good way of doing it because of the way the money is kind of spread out right now. So if I did kind of Son and Rashford, my 2 most expensive midfielders, to Salah and someone else, I'd only have 5.8 million to spend. So I couldn't get like an Eze or a Diaby. And even like someone like Ward-Prowse, which I know everyone loves at the moment, even he's 6.1 million, so it can't be done. I could obviously do Chilwell down to someone like Botman to save some money, and that would give me 6.9 million to spend on a midfielder. But is it worth taking Son and Rashford out for a hit? I don't think it is, personally. So I'm happy to stick to the plan that I don't need Salah until game weeks 9 or 10. And I'm not going to captain him anyway. I'm going to captain Haaland mostly over the next few weeks. And just to reiterate, once again, I don't think that captaincy is the only reason to own Salah. But when you don't own him, it should be a big reason to rip up your team to bring him in. And I'm going to captain Haaland this week against Forest at home. Then it is, who have they got after that? Wolves away, right? And then it's also a double game week. So even if I didn't want to go Haaland, I'd probably go for a Luton player. And then, okay, game week 8 is Arsenal away, which isn't great. But in game week 8, I think Liverpool have got Brighton away, right, which we already talked about. So, yeah, I don't know. I just sitting there. I'm not really panicking. I know other people are, don't like their Man United players. They're frustrated they got Son and he blanked against Sheffield United. But I'm just not massively worried about it. I think they're all good individually, and I just can't sell Man United players for a hit before they play Burnley away. And if they do well, the conversation will change again anyway. If Rashford and Fernandes both return and Salah finally blanks, then all of a sudden in game week 7, people won't be so worried about making those moves. So I'm just going to stick to the plan. I don't think there's really too much more to say about these midfielders. Would I rather have Sterling than Son this week? Yes. Do I mind so much in game week 7 when Son's got Liverpool at home? Probably not. I guess there are now concerns that Son might not play number 9 because Richarlison came on. Obviously, his confidence will be better now. But I think I've got to keep hold of him. Like, I know I've made some moves so far this season I haven't had to do, and some of them have been a bit knee-jerk. But ultimately, I'm happy to hold on to players when I've got bigger, more important transfers to make. And that kind of applies with Son. In Burma, I guess, will be interesting in games where they play. I think I heard James on Planet FPL talk about this. They've lost Rico Henry for the season. Someone else is going to have to play in that full-back position. Now, when they're playing a back 4, that's probably going to be fine. But when they play a back 3, we've seen in Burma at the end of some games play wing-back. Will he play wing-back in those harder fixtures like Man United away? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. For Everton at home and Forest away, it's not going to be a massive problem anyway. And like I said, I'm okay with Rashford and Fernandes. Like, Fernandes had 2 returns so far. Rashford's had 3. Both of those players could have had more. And the fixture run gets really good now. So, yeah, I'm sure there's some other midfielders that are going to do better. But there's none that I feel like are worth a transfer. And obviously, you've got to remember everyone's team is different. I've got Chilwell to worry about now. Saliba's not got the greatest fixture. I've got Nicholas Jackson up front. If you've got no other issues and you want to sell some of those players to get Salah, absolutely fair enough. But I think most people that are taking hits, probably not needed. I definitely won't be doing it. And then up front, I've got Nicholas Jackson and Erling Haaland. Now, with Haaland, I know it's quite boring that most people own him and then most of those people captain him every single week. But I quite like that decision is taken out of our hands. Unless he gets injured, you just don't need to worry about him. This week, he's got Forest at home. It's taken me about 2 seconds to decide to captain him. Therefore, I can focus on other more pressing issues instead. So Haaland, of course, stays. Nicholas Jackson is potentially one of those more pressing issues. I think anyone that owns him is very frustrated with him. I bought him in game week 3. Since then, he's had 3 matches, 1 goal, 2 yellow cards, and is 1 yellow card away from a suspension. Now, that suspension that's looming is not reason enough alone to sell him, but it does mean at some point I'm probably going to have to deal with him. And while I've got 2 free transfers, maybe I should just get it done this week. There is part of me thinking, though, the plan was always to own him for Chelsea's good fixtures. So they got Villa at home this week, then Fulham away and Burnley away, which aren't that bad. And if he had scored that great chance against Forest in game week 4, would I be sat here having the same thoughts about Jackson? Okay, he's blanked against Bournemouth, but if he scored the previous 2 games, would I be as worried? Possibly not. Ultimately, if I was wildcarding this week, there is no chance I would have Jackson. So that's playing on my mind. But obviously, I'm not wildcarding, so my decision-making process is a little bit different. I don't know. I'm second-guessing myself a little bit because so far my transfers have been awful. I did Watkins to Jackson. First 2 game weeks, that worked out fine. But since then, Watkins has got another assist and Jackson has blanked. So Watkins has scored more points than Jackson since I sold him. Martinelli has scored more points than Sterling since I sold him, even though he's injured now. And obviously, Sterling to Son netted me no points because they both blanked. So if I'd made no transfers, I'd have more points right now than I do. So I am second guessing myself a little bit, but I am still thinking about selling Jackson this week. I'm just wondering how knee-jerk is it, right? Because usually a player that's putting up pretty good numbers with good fixtures, I'd usually hold on to. But obviously there is one player that's been very consistent, and that is Julian Alvarez. Now, I think the hype around him this week is starting to get to kind of Sterling and Son levels, where he's a great pick, but I don't know if he's as good as everyone is kind of making out. The difference is, as a lot of people have pointed out to me, he's been consistently good all season, whereas Sterling came in after a big haul, Son came in after a big haul. That's not the case this week. So I think this is a perfectly reasonable transfer. I think at the start of the season, I said I didn't really want Man City attackers outside of Haaland because of rotation concerns. Those rotation concerns with Alvarez are starting to drop down quite a bit. And this week, I think there's almost no chance he's benched against Forest at home because Man City have so few options. Bernardo Silva's out, according to Pep from last night, and Grealish is going to be out as well. So I think Alvarez almost certainly starts, and he's on a lot of set pieces as well, right? He's gone free kicks, taking a lot of corners too. So he just looks like an all-round great option. For anyone that went in game week 3 when he was cheaper, fair play. But I still think it's quite a good move this week. The only other one that's on my mind is to get Morris instead. Which I know sounds stupid when you say it out loud, but he's got Wolves at home this week. and then a double game week of Everton away and Burnley at home in game week 7. The only thing that I'm kind of thinking not to make this move is it almost guarantees a transfer afterwards, because I'm not going to want to hold him too long. Now, if I'm wildcarding in game weeks 9 or 10, probably 10 more likely, then obviously that's a good way to get rid of him and anyone else that I don't want. But what if I then change my mind and I don't want a wildcard? This then sets me up to have to make another transfer. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. Plus, Luton aren't very good, right? And in the last game, they usually play with 2 up front, Morris and Adebayo, but they didn't do that, which meant Morris got substituted, I think, for Adebayo in that game. So that's also a little bit of a concern for me. Whereas if I get Alvarez in, as long as he doesn't lose minutes or starts getting benched, even though the fixtures get a little bit worse for Man City, I think I can probably hold on to him for a little bit longer. Like, if we look at the other options you've got up front, like, don't get me wrong, let me just get rid of this. Don't get me wrong, like, Awani has been brilliant, but is he better than Alvarez? I mean, he could be with the fixtures they got coming up, but I'm not probably going to buy him. I'd probably go for the Man City player instead. Ferguson's too much of a rotation risk. Players like Isak and Wilson, if they were nailed, if one of them got injured, I would love to get the other one. And those that go for the Wilson punt this week, because Isak started in the Champions League, that could pay off really nicely, but I just don't want to go for those rotation worries. And Darwin Núñez I'm definitely interested in, but again, I don't think there's a mad rush to get Liverpool players next 3 weeks. And by game week 9 and 10, when I might wildcard, I know I keep saying it, I can reassess then. So I just think Alvarez looks like a pretty good option to bring in. And even after Forest at home and Wolves away, okay, Arsenal away is tricky, but who's expecting Man City not to score against Brighton at home, Man United away, and Bournemouth home? They're going to get goals in all of those games. Like, I'm not really worried about owning Haaland whatsoever. So am I really going to be worried about another attacker that's like just under 7 million that's also got the same fixtures? Probably not. So I am starting to talk myself into this move. But that obviously means without a hit, I can't make both of my defender moves. So I'd probably look at something like this. Jackson and Chilwell out, which would get rid of all my Chelsea players, even though I was on the triple up not too long ago. And I'd get Alvarez and Botman. I would keep Saliba and either play him against Spurs at home or play Kabori instead and just bench Saliba ready for Bournemouth at home. I think that can work. So that is something I'm looking at. I don't know. There's something in the back of my mind that tells me this isn't the way to go and I should do the double defence change instead. Give Jackson 1 more week and then decide what to do in game week 7. I could then get Morris or just bring in Alvarez. But obviously, part of the thinking with Alvarez is he plays Forest at home this week. So if he's a good option for the next 6 game weeks, bringing him in game week 7 is not a problem. But let's be honest, we want that Nottingham Forest at home fixture as well. So I'm a little bit undecided. I think I'm going to make a double change. So I'm going to be this one, or it's going to be the Chilwell and Saliba out one. I think the interesting thing is I checked my AI suggested transfers on Fantasy Football Hub. And if you want to check this out, obviously all the links are in the description below as normal. And that also thinks I should do Chilwell and Saliba to Trippier and Botman. So it's quite nice to have your own thoughts backed up by kind of an algorithm essentially, right? Which is their AI suggested transfers. So I don't know, that kind of makes me go back to thinking this is the move that I should make. If we look on the My Team tool, if I did the Chilwell move this week, so let's just put Chilwell to Botman, and then let's just do Jackson to Alvarez. I don't think it's great to have to play Kabori this week because although it's Wolves at home, right, the Luton defence isn't great, but he can be quite exciting, right, playing as a wing back. So there is part of me thinking that. This would be the team. So obviously Pickford, Estepinian against Bournemouth at home, Botman, Sheffield United away, Kabori against Wolves at home. I've already talked about the midfield. And then you get that double City attack against Forest at home, which is a game where Forest will probably win 1-0 or something like that. Then in game week 7, Kabori's got the double anyway, so that's not a problem. Saliba can come in ahead of Estepinian, probably anyway. And then Botman's got Burnley at home. And then all my midfielders, you've got Saka against Bournemouth away as well. Fernandes and Rashford against Palace at home, they're not issues either. And Burma against Forest away is fine. And even Son against Liverpool home is not that bad. It's definitely better than Arsenal away. So even though I've used both of my moves, I wouldn't need to make another transfer. So I feel like as long as I'm happy playing Kabori for the next 2 weeks, I can get away with keeping Saliba. And then we move into game week 8. This is when the defensive problems start to crop up a little bit again, because Kabori's got Spurs at home and Saliba's got Man City at home. So I would have to make a move that week. Essentially, I'm going to have to make a second defender transfer at some point It just depends when I want to do that. Do I want to do it this week or not? Right? I could do the double Newcastle change this week and then move Jackson to Alvarez the week after. It's all just about ordering those moves. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, second guessing my transfers at this point. I think things look pretty good in general, even though there are a few issues starting to crop up. Mostly because I've got those midfielders that I know are going to start every single game. That just means that I never have to panic about them. But there is more Champions League matches tonight, Europa League on Thursday. So if anything massively changes, I'll talk about it in final thoughts on Friday. If you've enjoyed that video, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you want to check out Fantasy Football Hub, which I highly recommend you do, there are links in the description below. And if you're listening on podcast, make sure to rate 5 stars. Otherwise, I'll catch you tomorrow for the game week preview.